Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Runehammer Games Bearcats and the one-shot and the story for the one-shot that I recently ran, which was called the GX5 Bearcats one-shot. So this was using Index Card RPG 2.E, second edition, and so that's the rule set we used. We used the Bearcats Battle World, and this all took place on Terra Colony 337, and Terra Colony 337, all the Terra colonies have a theme, and the 3D printers are set to print out whatever theme has been chosen by the corporation that established that Terra colony. And Terra Colony 337 was set to 1984 American Heartland, right? So pickup trucks and just like 1984 Red Dawn, right? And so basically, so essentially this story took place with an alien invasion happening in the town of Fairview, right? And essentially all the action starting at Fairview College, the center point for Fairview, right? We used the Bearcats. I have to say, I am just so, I cannot recommend Bearcats enough. $7.50. It should be 3 times that amount. It's so good, and it's just really fantastic. And one of the things that I really absolutely love about Runehammer Games material are these maps. These maps are like, they're masterpieces. They really are just fantastic. The way they very, very quickly establish a setting, and I couldn't believe how strong the interaction of my players was with the map. They're like, so basically, so I think you'll get a sense of that as I tell the story. All right. So we had 3 player characters: the preacher, the art student, and the mechanic. All right. So the preacher was a middle-aged human male, right? The art student was a 20-year-old human college student, art student, right? And the mechanic was a 30-year-old human male who actually was not college educated, but was incredibly good with mechanical skills and had a mobile tool shop in a pickup truck, right? All right, so essentially we started at at Fairview College, and the preacher was there to give counseling to one of the students, not the art student, okay, the art student player character, and he had just finished that up. And so he was just going around campus, and this particular preacher player character, he really liked the idea that the player really liked this idea that Terra Colony 337 really had the opportunity for freedom and independence, because the corporation that had established it, the Earth Corporation that had established it, had went out of business, right? So now Terra Colony 337, which used to be a corporate world, actually had the chance to be free and independent. So he was actually rallying students and like he was standing on a bench and talking about the benefits of a free and independent Terra Colony 337, right? So while that happens, the aliens arrive, right? There's essentially the ship arrives in the sky, and immediately streaks of light are coming down, and I had the relays actually slam down into the ground, and they were just big red arcs of big straight red lines that hit the ground and kind of shake the ground when the relays come down, right? And basically immediately they hear explosions. There's red lights in the sky, and it's about 9 p.m. on a fall evening, right? And so my preacher player character is rallying these students, and he rolled his charisma, and he had 8 people following him, right? Like listening to what he was saying, and he did well enough on the roll that he had captured their hearts and minds, Well, at this point, all this happens, and then we cut away from the preacher and we go to the mechanic. And the mechanic is up on the roof fixing the HVAC unit. He comes down, and immediately this non-player character, Jessica, comes up to him and says, "Hey, my cat Noodles is lost. And she got frightened and she ran away. Will you help me find Noodles?" Right? Now, this is a complete distraction. He needs to get to a hardened position, right? This mechanic needs to get to a hardened position. I wanted this girl to distract him and and essentially put him in a position of danger, right? I was really, really proud of this player. The mechanic player is like, I'm going to help her. He runs over to his mobile tool shop, and he says, I pull off my drone, I set the drone into the sky, and I begin looking for the cat with the drone, right? Now, this is what I love about Index Card RPG. There's no drone on his character sheet, right? Like, anything that logically fits within your character's framework, we allow it, right? Like, you know, if you're a detective and you say, I pull out my pipe, you don't have to have that pipe on your character sheet, right? If you say, I pull out my what is that thing? The magnifying glass, right? You know, and now if you're a detective and you say, I pull out my chainsaw, doesn't resonate, right? And this completely fits with the flow of Index Card RPG. So he immediately establishes equipment that completely resonates with his character, and he begins being a hero. I was so proud of this player. It was really nice. It was wonderful, right? And so I had set the difficulty for the scene at 9. In Index Card RPG, it goes down to easy 6 or hard 12, right? And I told him finding the cat's going to be a 12. Well, he got like a 15. He nails it. He finds the cat right away, right? And then I jump over to the artist student, right? And I asked the artist student, what were you doing? He's like, I was going to a kind of a study session late at night, and then at that point, I tell all of them, hey, you guys are, you're majorly under attack. What is your plan right now? And all of them, said, hey, we need to find some cover, right? Which totally made sense because there's like lights in the sky. They're hearing explosions. They're hearing shots, right? And I know that there are spiders and juggers that are kind of coming in on Fairview, right? And by the way, that's all I used in the game. In the one session, I used juggers. Juggers are like big, thick mecha, okay? And then, so juggers are big, thick mecha. And then spiders are these small, skittering, like drone machines, right? And they don't really have any, juggers actually have an alien inside them, right? And they kind of wear that mecha suit. But spiders don't. They're essentially alien drones, right? And so I had relays, I had juggers, and I had spiders. And that's all I needed, right? To have a compelling one shot. It was really fun, just super, and everything just like dropped into place because that battle world, that 40-page battle world is so specific, so perfectly balanced, right? That it makes the game master's job so easy, right? Easy to invite players into your world, easy to run, easy to have a good game. It was powerful and wonderful, and I loved it. All right. So at this point, we get all of the player characters into the concert hall at Fairview College, right? Because it has large arches, it's built strong and sound, right? And so I introduced 2 more non-players. So at this point, Jessica. And actually, boy, I'll tell you, you gotta love players, right? So the preacher's like, I'm gonna get all these 8 people who are listening to my speech to a safe point, the concert hall. And then, my other the artist students, the player says, I'm going to get myself to a safe, covered area. And then literally after those 2, my other player's like, I'm going to jump in my now that I found the cat, I'm going to give the cat to the girl, and then I'm going to jump in my truck and immediately drive out of town to the Pine Bluff Supply, where the military garrison is, so that I can get all the machine guns and the rocket launchers, right? And, as a GM, I didn't say it, but as a GM, I'm like, come on, you're killing me, man. Like, don't split the party, right? But I allow it. Like, I'm the game master, right? I have control of every single thing in that world, but I do not control other player characters. So, so he runs off, like, splitting in, and that was a little bit of a problem because we had to split focus in the game. So at this point, we go over to the concert hall. The preacher is there. The art student is there, and at this point, we introduced two new non-player characters. Professor Hindelorst, who was an elderly African-American gentleman. He had kind of a salt and pepper beard and kind of freckles on his face, right? Very old and venerable, right? And then we had Coach Santiago, who was the coach of the Bearcats. So Coach Santiago was a Hispanic female, about 40 years old, and essentially she had long wavy hair, right? Okay. All right, so Coach Santiago immediately says, listen, Bearcats, we need to defend Fairview College. We're under attack. We don't know who these attackers are, but we know we're under attack, and you, the Bearcats, the strong people of this college, you need to do a good job of defending these other students, right? So we're going to go out of here and we're going to gather weapons, right? Now, at this time, Professor Hindelhorst walks up on stage, right, and says, no, Coach. No, that's not the case. We need to get all these people to safety, right? We can't, this bright, shiny campus is going to be attacked. We don't have any weapons here. We need to go into the forest that is behind Fairview and hide there, right? Now, at this point, the preacher comes forward and he says, okay, I got this, right? I am going to go up and put my arm around Professor Hindelhorst and agree that his plan to get all the students out of Fairview College as quickly as possible and hide in the forest is the best way to go, right? And so he gave a rousing speech, right? And he actually said some specific things to Coach Santiago, right? Complimenting her leadership as a coach, right? And also, this is really important, right? The quarterback had already been determined to be in the 8 people who were following him, who were essentially, he already had a coterie, he had an entourage, which were the 8 people that he had convinced to be rallied for a free and independent Terra Colony 337. And the quarterback was already there. And so having the quarterback allowed Coach Santiago to ally with the preacher. And then Coach Santiago, and then we gave the social role against charisma. It was hard. He had to go at a target number 12. He made the target. I think he just got 12. And so everybody went into the forest, right? And once everybody was safe, they then planned to all go to Pine Bluff to get the weapon supply that my mechanic character had already driven off to get, right? So now I jumped over to my mechanic player that had run off from the party, right? And essentially, this is so wonderful, right? So you could look at the map, and the map was really cool, right? So basically, you had Fairview College, and then there was a road that went over a bridge, and that bridge was over a wide ravine, like a crevasse, right? It was really, really cool. And basically, so he had to drive his pickup truck over this bridge, right? Well, when he gets to the bridge, there's a jugger on the bridge. Oh, by the way, at first, my mechanic player encountered a relay, and he just went over, and he just did a perception check on the relay, and was able to tell, and actually it was very clear, it's alien technology, it's not human technology. Now, this was a big deal because some of the other player characters had thought that they were under attack by Dragofash, the corporation that had established Terra Colony 337. So it was kind of like, and I really love the way my players were like, yeah, we thought it was the corporation. They were really just doing a great job, role-playing. And again, that all comes from Bearcats. Bearcats just invites your player characters in, right? And it's teed you up as a dungeon master, as a game master, to just do a great job with the game. And you can just focus on the narrative. You can focus on making it real, right? Because so much of the work is done, and it's done in, and like, you can buy this on a Monday and you can run it on a Saturday. It's beautiful. Runehammer Games is doing the very best design in tabletop role-playing games right now, without exception, right? All right, so you got this situation, right? And then he goes to drive his truck over. So he sees the relay. He realizes it's alien technology. The mechanic then drives toward drives all the way toward the bridge that goes over the ravine gorge, right? And basically he encounters spiders who come up and attack the truck, right? They actually stop the truck near the bridge, and they actually call, and also the mechanic at this point sees that he can't even drive his truck over the bridge because a jugger is destroying the bridge, right? So now juggers and the spiders attack the mechanic, and they knock him unconscious, and he makes a death save and has to roll a death save. He rolls a d6, he gets 6, which means in 6 turns he dies, right? So I'm like, oh boy, right? Now, one of my other players had been so excited about this game that he made 5-player characters with cheats, and he's like, you want to know the cheat? Right? And I was like, to the mechanic guy, and I was like, hey, listen, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You are knocked unconscious. You are bleeding out, right? But there's no one there to save you. But if you would like to continue to play this character, I have a narrative way that totally fits the story that we can bring you in, right? You're just going to have to wait a little bit. So then we shoot back to the other group. They all say, okay, how are we going to get to Pine Bluff, right? And I love this. The art character, the art student says, well, we can't go over the bridge because it's probably going to be destroyed. He was 100% right. So they decide to go on foot. They now form a coterie. Professor, and actually the preacher tasks Professor Hindelhorst to stay with all the students in the forest, and then builds an away team of the Coach Santiago, and like 5 more of her people, and then the preacher takes 5 from his coterie, so a group of 12 go on foot, right? Travel across Fairview College, and then get to the ravine gorge, and then have to climb down the ravine gorge and up the ravine gorge with no weapons and no ropes. And so it was a stealth mission. They got there, and then I made them make a check to go down for the down climb and a check for the up climb. And I told them, if you fail this, you will roll 1d12. They all have 1 heart because they're human beings, which means they only have 10 hit points, which means this could kill them on the down and it could kill them on the up, right? Not only did they succeed the rolls, right, but their planning actually allowed them to save 2 characters that were going to die because they had saved their roll, but I allowed them to use their planning to preserve the lives of their away team. It was fantastic. They get on the other side of the gorge, and they come across a cloaked figure. That cloaked figure is a GX5. It is a sentry drone from the Sunaks. By the way, I named the aliens the Sunaks. And it's a rebel character. I thought that maybe one of my players would choose a rebel. They didn't. The alien rebel comes over, right, and tells them the following. He's holding the knocked out mechanic. The player characters immediately revive him, and I was able to restore him with the party, right? And then, so now he's restored with the party, and at that point, the alien says, the reason I've come, I've come to help you, and the reason why is, I think Old Man Varney, the guy who owns the farm, he gave us your coordinates to your planet to save his daughter from cancer, and we sent him the cure to cancer, and he gave us your planet's coordinates, and we're going to wipe out all life on this planet except Old Man Varney. But I think Old Man Varney is a traitor, and I think him trading your coordinates for a cure for cancer for his daughter, right, was wrong, and that's why I'm going to help you, humans, right? Now, that's Old Man Varney, but Rachel Varney was one of the people who was in the away team, right? Because, and she was, so she was a track and field person. She's very fast, and so that's why she was included on the away team, right? And she understands this, and she goes, no, I wasn't given a cure. I went into remission naturally, right? And, and then he actually brings up the schematics and shows that she was given a cure, and that Old Man Varney did trade the coordinates of TC 33 Terra Colony 337 to cure her, right? And that the plan of the aliens is to wipe out all life on the planet, right? And steal its resources, and then Varney, Old Man Varney, and his entire family will be taken back to the Sunak's homeworld and will be treated as citizens. They're going to be treated as citizens, right? So now the team's like, oh my gosh, this girl, like she's actually the daughter of somebody who betrayed our entire planet, right? And it was really wild. So at this point, they have this conversation. They say, hey, we got to go to Pine Bluff. So they go to Pine Bluff, where the military resources are. There's a garrison of 20 soldiers, right? Now the problem is, when Dracofash went out of business, these soldiers weren't getting paid anymore. So now their leader is just a drunkard, and their entire unit is very disheveled, right? So we go, and I said, and actually when they go to the supply buff, they knock on the main door, and they're like, let us in, we need weapons to bring back to the students who are right outside of Fairview College. And it was Sergeant Monet, and Sergeant Monet is like, go away, we're not giving you any, just go away. So they actually, they disagree. The mechanic character takes a cutter and cuts the door open. They slide the door open. And there is a brutal, bloody attack scene where 4 of the Bearcats actually die. And the player characters all make their rolls, right? And I actually said, do you let these Bearcats get in front of you and take the brunt of this attack? And they're all like, yep, yeah, we do. Right? I was like, hey, sometimes, it's a meat shield. There you go, right? Like, so the Bearcats serve, the Bearcat football players serve as a meat shield. They get all of the weapons. Then they load up all the weapons into 2 Humvees and drive back to a shallow point across from the gorge, and are driving all the weapons back to Fairview College, to the forest where all the students and Professor Hindelhorst are at, and they're encountered by juggers and by spiders. They have to defeat the spiders. There's a very exciting scene, they had to make rolls to see if they fell out of the car. One of them got up onto a 50 cal and shot. One of them threw a grenade out the window. It was crazy. It was a really good attack. They got to fight, but they made it through. They defeated the spiders, right? And actually, there wasn't even a jugger; it was just the spiders. And they brought all the weapons back to Professor Hindelhorst in the forest, and they said, "Hey, Professor Hindelhorst, here's all the here's all the weapons." And the entire school, actually about a third of all the students at the college, which there was 400 students, died in the initial attack on Fairview College. But there was about 200-300 students that were hidden in the forest, and they all celebrate, as quietly as they can. And we ended the one shot with all the weapons being passed out to all of the students, and the preacher, the art student, and the mechanic are lauded as heroes because they were heroes. It was fantastic. It really felt like Red Dawn. It was just, it ran smooth as glass. The entire game took 2 hours and 45 minutes, including character creation. I loved it. It was super wonderful. It's everything I hoped for from the Runehammer games. Really fantastic. I cannot recommend Bearcats enough. Check it out. Get it. You're going to love it. Take care.